actually, like I said, somebody winning the lottery. So we can't really base any of our judgments on that fact, even though we do want there to be a cure and we don't want people to suffer. People still have the right to decide on whether or not they want to deal with it, whether or not they want to go through this. So they should be able to choose that yes, they want to put an end to this just because it's miserable, it's painful. But our other reason for being pro-euthanasia is because if a doctor can use non-voluntary euthanasia, if it's legal to use involuntary euthanasia, which involuntary euthanasia, I don't know if we've explained, is pretty much considered murder everywhere. It's whenever a person doesn't give a consent, no family member gives consent. An example of this would be death row. If we can use involuntary euthanasia on an individual who has committed a crime and been put on death row and everything else, then we see this as legal, even though they are trying to fight it. This is considered legal. It is involuntary euthanasia that we do use, and it's considered legal. So if we can legalize what they consider murder on death row for people who committed a crime, who should be sitting in there for a long time, why can we not legalize voluntary euthanasia for a person who is terminally ill and who is obviously in pain and who is obviously suffering and just wants to put an end to it all? Why can we not legalize this for them so that they can put an end to their misery, pretty much? So.
To rebut Jeang's case, I present the slippery slope effect. In the Netherlands, there is a living laboratory in which an euthanasia experiment is being conducted, and it is claimed that active, non-voluntary, and involuntary euthanasia are openly practiced there. That could happen here as well. Also in the Netherlands, non-voluntary euthanasia is practiced on infants. What if they had tried a little harder? They could have saved the child, or worse, what if the baby was misdiagnosed and they were wrongfully taken its life? Netherlands also allows children ages 12 to 16 to be euthanized by the physician without parental consent under exceptional circumstances. If we allow physician-assisted suicide to be legal, who knows the possibilities of wrongful or unnecessary killings we are opening our doors to? Do we want that type of bloodshed on our hands?
Okay, I wanted to add to that, since we still have some time. I think we can kind of open it up for more discussion. The slippery slope effect is basically a gateway. Once you open the door and you allow euthanasia, it opens the door to so many more possibilities. For example, the Netherlands, as Lyndesy was talking about, is a place where they do allow euthanasia. And there's several clinics that have been proven where they are doing non-voluntary and involuntary euthanasia. And as we discussed, involuntary is against someone's will, and non-voluntary is where somebody's in a situation that they're not able to make that decision. In this particular case, we found they practice this a lot on infants. Well, as we discussed with these cures that they found, there is a very high chance that they're going to find cures for some of these diseases. I mean, we are spending millions of dollars, and we have the top scientists working on finding these cures. I mean, how do you think they found the cure for smallpox? They found the cure for measles, malaria, chickenpox, all those things that seem so minor to us. We get our vaccinations and we're fine, we're done. Those killed people. I mean, people only lived till 30, 40 years old. That was their average lifespan. Well, now, you know, we're living a lot. Sorry, y'all. We are not allowing euthanasia in here. But, so, like, my point is, they're doing this on infants. And these infants, if they were possibly bring them to the Texas Medical Center and bring them to some better doctors and get second opinions, we could have saved a lot of these kids' lives rather than just going ahead and euthanizing them. You also have to think about the corruption that's involved with these doctors' mind frame. If they know euthanasia is an option, if they don't think, you know, what if it comes down to insurance? That patient doesn't have that great of insurance and euthanasia is an option. What do you think they're going to push for? I'm sorry, it sounds terrible, but my husband works with several doctors, and it's business. I mean, the medical field is a business just like any other field is a business.
Speaking of business, as far as monetary concerns are brought up as well. Even people in jail, people that are in jail that we hold up, that we pay our taxes and that it does go to them. We hold them up and it costs $1.5 million a year for everybody. We have only about 24,000 that it begins to hold a patient inside. So what is the hurry to be able to kill these people and to get rid of them? Just give them a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's also capital punishment. It's not necessarily, that falls into the capital punishment, not necessarily euthanasia. Euthanasia is, we're just using this as an example of, yes, they are putting these people on death row and everything else, and they're involuntarily killing these people, but that's capital punishment. What we're saying is if it's legal for them to use this in the jail system for people who don't honestly deserve it, why can't we give it for people who actually deserve it, who actually need it, because they can't live like this? Imagine living in pain. Imagine suffering, not being able to get up and use the bathroom, not being able to feed yourself, not being able to walk, living in a diaper, living in all this terrible stuff that honestly none of us even know what it's like. We can only imagine. Imagine what that's like. But yet we give these people who are in death row an express lane to their lives, and they honestly don't deserve it. They need to sit there, but that's capital punishment. But what we should do for the people who need it, and the people who aren't trying to hurt anybody else, they're not violating anybody's rights, any reasons, anything else like that, give it to them. They need it. They want it.
absolutely. But the problem that comes there is when you allow something like that, there's gray lines everywhere. Where do you determine who needs it? If you start to determine, okay, well, they're ill, the quality of life is not great, then down the road it's going to be, well, homeless people don't have a great quality of life, let's take them out too.
Yeah, but they're not in pain with a terminally ill disease.
And
They're just living in a box. That's different. They just,
But how is
they
it
can
different?
better their
It's
lives.
not a quality of life, it's not a great quality of life. That's what I'm saying. With the gateway, it's going to open up so many possibilities that we're going to turn into a modern day Hitler and just start executing people left and right.
You can't say that though. I mean, there's really no set evidence that shows that the slippery slope is going to happen. I mean, just because there's a possibility
Oregon
doesn't mean that it will. You know, like even with Roe versus Wade and then making abortion legal, that didn't cause infanticide across the entire world. You know, there's not babies everywhere. You know, it gives the option, but it doesn't mean that everyone's killing their babies now just because you can.
Well, in the Netherlands, they are. It is a slippery slope. That's exactly what happened to them. They started it off, let's just kill people who are sick, let's do this and that. And now they have these clinics where involuntary euthanasia is happening. Think about, you see the news, and it's terrible, but you see babies in trash cans. You find children murdered by their parents. If this is now an option, these parents are going to do this. They're going to take advantage of
it. You can't just say, okay, I'll take it and just stick the needle in your arm.
How are you going to enforce
Well, the thing about it is, even if you put a law out there, people are still going to do it. Even if you don't have a law out there,
But you
people
still
are
have to
still
be
going
This
to
way
do
there's
it. But
restrictions.
if you
not
have,
to get out of control.
well, yeah, but if you have a law and there are restrictions like what Amber stated about how having 2 doctors sign off on it, about having a psychologist sign off on it, then there are precautions that they can take to keep this from happening. I mean, we all know we're not the Netherlands. The Netherlands, everything is legal. Let's just put that one out there right now. Everything is legal.
right now.
If we want to go on what's legal in the Netherlands, I could be here all day.
But if we brought that
But
into
the
the
thing
United
about it
States,
is-
it opens up for a doctor to be able to.
Yeah, but the
And if that
United
doctor,
States is
there's
also
been
more
cases
controlled.
where if this doctor says no and this doctor says no, well then, hey, our family's gonna keep trying until we find the one that does say yes. And that has happened actually. There
The
has been
case
cases.
she's talking about, there was an elderly woman with dementia in Oregon, so in the United States, her granddaughter was very close to her. She took her to all her doctor's appointments. The grandmother supposedly decided that she wanted to be euthanized. So 2 doctors denied her, said she's not mentally capable to make that decision.